Hey guys, so after all this time, 3 years, we have not touched Ray-Ban at all. Today, I changed that. We're gonna dive into one because honestly, this is a pretty cool comparison. I have a vintage Ray-Ban back when Bauschand and Lomb still made it. As some of you may know, that is now Exotica owned company, and it's what it is, okay? I'm not getting into that. But we're gonna take a look at it and compare the original to the new one and a couple other offshoots from it with their new vintage release. So for starters, inevitably, someone is going to call me out on something I say in this video because I am not a Ray-Ban fanatic. I have never been one. I never claimed to be one, and that's why I don't carry it. So yeah, we're going to do what we can here, okay? I'm going to get some things wrong, but we're going to go through it together and figure it out. Here we have the vintage, the original Outdoorsman. So real nice frames here, okay? This thing looks it has lived some lives. This guy is older than me by a pretty good bit, actually, but it's still an overall decent frame, fairly usable. Don't ever take your glasses off with one hand. I will find you, I will hunt you down, and we will cry together about what happens after that. But this guy here, we're missing a nose pad on this side. I actually have a friend I need to send it to and get one of those soldered back on. We've got the classic cable temples because that was the thing with these. You've got this, I forget what they called this material, but it's really very different from what's on the new one. It's got this nice opalescent type sheen to it, very, very nice flesh tone. These are the real vintage glass green lenses. Don't do that. That hurts when you do that. And from my understanding, the frames in this era, you would have actually had a decent 14 karat plating or rolled gold on these. I honestly don't recall. Again, not a Ray-Ban enthusiast. Sorry, I know that breaks hearts if you clicked on this video searching for Ray-Ban and you happen to find me, the guy who really doesn't much care for it. But, you know, here we are. So there's your vintage guy. Nice shape, nice condition, really, considering the age of it. You know, it's been resoldered a few times here, pretty much every damn where it can be resoldered, it's been resoldered. And you can tell that because you've got some very obvious high heat exposure on the material in all of those corners. It's rather impressive, okay? That's all I have to say to that. It is really rather impressive. The brow bar has somehow survived. It did get bent in a weird way somewhere along the way. You can see we have a little gappy gap up here where that got bented. And on the nose pads, this one actually has those original ones there as well. Not over here. We've got one original one. The first thing you'll notice though, these are glass lenses. There is no anti-reflective coating, and you know, the optics are always going to be good with that, but the color is very, very different versus the new offshoot. So this is the new one with that G15 colored lens. Very classic. Ray-Ban is very well known for it at this point. And the first thing I'm going to say here is these screws are severely over tightened. I literally just pulled this thing out of the box, and to open it, like if we pull it from the end here, you can see how much of a bend we get in that before it actually starts to open. And that is true on both sides. That's excessive, guys. I love a good tight screw on a pair of glasses. Love a good tight screw, yeah. Glasses, sunglasses. But this is too much, okay? Too much, too tight. These are gonna punish me. All of my years of not loving Ray-Ban, this sucker right here is doing its absolute most to make up for it every time I take it off. So this one, the new one, we still have the cable temple, which is nice because these are pretty hard to come by these days. You can do conversions on other frames to have that fit and feel. Personally, I'm not a huge fan just because the on and off is kind of a pain. What they have done with this one, so you can take them off without cutting yourself, is it does have that full cable wrap on it. Now, I do believe originally from the factory, these did, long since that has gone and disappeared. You can get replacements for the vintage Ray-Bans as well. It's basically just a nice heat shrink tubing, which is actually not quite what we have here, or is it quite what we have here? Yeah. It is, but it's pretty nicely done actually. So they go a little bit past the edge, they shrink that down all the way around. This one at the very tip, speaking of quality control, you can see it's a little exposed on that one edge on the inside. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I can't really complain about that. What are these, 150, 160, 180? Someone correct me. I don't remember what I paid. I ordered it for you and I didn't want to look. But it is nice in the sense that they kept this traditional bar across the top. You know, they've added a little bit more here, I guess. I don't know why in particular. No. See, I told you I was gonna get a million things wrong. So we do have that metal bar on both in the front. You've got that brow bar across the top that's a little bit thicker. I will say on this one, it goes pretty much edge to edge on that top. This one, we're more in the middle of the lens. The shape's a little bit different too. This one definitely tapers down a lot more on that bottom edge. You'll notice it on both sides. This one, not quite as much, but that's because of some other stuff going on here from the age of it. I do kind of like the shape of this one a little bit more, just because for modern faces, it tends to work a little bit better. And I'm sure that's what they were going for. They were tweaking the design just ever so slightly, so it fits in with the modern age, but it is still that true vintage style. And maybe someone knows better than me that this is more correct for most of what was sold. Again, I don't know the exact style on this one. It may not be exactly the Outdoorsman. There is, you know, no writing left here, among other things that aren't left here. But overall, I really can't come up with anything particularly bad about these. Right off for me though, there's no anti-reflective coating on them, which that's really reflected in the price point. Lenses, we do have glass lenses, so the optics are gonna be good. Right now, this thing just feels like it's sucked up and hugging my face, which, you know, in ways that's good. Personally, not a huge fan of cable temples, partially because of where they sit on me, partially because of that it's sucked up to my freaking face feel, and I just don't like my glasses to feel like that. Overall, it's a nice form and structure. It's really good to kind of revisit this and make it new after all these years, especially when thinner metal frames are really trending all around anyways, right? Now, what's cool, they've done this vintage collection, but they didn't just reintroduce that one. They introduced several. It's 3 different styles. I've got 2 of them here and one that's kind of a variation based on that. Now, someone can and probably will correct me. This may be something different entirely. But the one we have just been talking about, this is the RB3030 for those smartasses that want to tell me I don't know numbers. And this is the Outdoorsman 1. And then we've got some other numbers here. I don't know what they mean in Ray-Ban, but the eye size is going to be 58-14. Looks like we do have some size options with this. So there you go. Nice fit, feel, clean, good stuff. Then you've got this other guy. This one is the Shooter, which again, this one I know is a vintage style as well. I don't know exactly what they're going here for here, but it works. They've brought the original colors back here as well. The nose pads are still that kind of peachy flesh tone, but you'll note the material is not the same as what we saw in the original vintage one. Again, I don't know exactly what that is, that it has that pearlescent sheen to it. This one, we have traditional temples with the hockey ends. Nice, clean, easy on. For me, this one still feels super sucked up to the face, which I find incredibly interesting. What do we got? It's a 135 temple, which is pretty standard. But this is the RB3138 Shooter model, and it is going to be a little bit larger at a 58.9? Huh. But the sizing is, to me, a little bit small, which is actually interesting because the real vintage stuff typically did run smaller than what we see today. Overall fit, I'm gonna give it a very firm small to medium. It's not definitely not on the big side by any means. This is actually smaller than the Seville Row Aviator that I'm familiar with. So as far as vintage stuff, that's one I could tell you a lot more about. But yeah, these are super over tightened. I did not catch that on this frame. You know, that's good. Right there is what I would expect the temples to open and close like. This guy, yeah, that's severely over tightened. I am not putting those cable temples back over my ear, but I did want to just kind of real quick show the sizing difference between these two, and that's not going to happen unless I put these freaking things back over my ear again. One of my friends has severely wanted to see me deal with cable temples on video. I guess he gets his wish today as well. Now, you'll see right off, there's not as much squeezing right here. This is definitely a lot more open on the face. Nice wrap, nice cut to it. Again, falls right here at the cheeks. Always good stuff there. This one I'm gonna give pretty much that standard average to medium size fit because we've got that wider bridge there. The lens size is about the same. So yeah, 58-14 versus 58-9. So you're losing 5 millimeters right here. That definitely adds up, and that's definitely why the other one feels significantly more snug to me. The last one and this one, I kind of like this one. I hate to say that out loud in my out loud voice, but I kind of like this one. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but this one brings it to mind pretty quickly. The overall finish quality, you know, I can't fault it. It's pretty darn good on these. Now, say what you will, I'm not a Lux lover, I'm not a Ray-Ban lover, I'm not any of those things, but the overall finish on a gold-plated frame, typically you're gonna have some inconsistencies there unless it is really, really well done to a very high standard. What's interesting with these, the plating does typically run thinner on Ray-Bans. I've worked with it soldering them before. It's just super easy to blast through and overheat and burn it and scorch it and whatever else you have. It's true for all the Ray-Bans. But the overall finish quality, so the look, the feel, the texture, the defects, and so the pitting and all that sort of thing, it's not really there. So while the finish isn't a super high grade finish as far as, you know, the thickness of the plating on it, it's well done. So it's kind of tough to throw them under the bus. I like to throw Ray-Ban under the bus. I want to throw Ray-Ban under the bus, but this collection in particular, and again, keep in mind I haven't touched many Ray-Bans. This vintage collection is nice. This guy is our RB3428, the road trip model, which, like I said, I like it because you've got this nice dark lens. I think this one's polarized, whatever. It's got the Ray-Ban logo up there. You know, maybe this one isn't part of the vintage collection. It is what it is. But it is a 58-15, so it falls right in line with sizing. It has that little brow bar with the trim, the nice thing here, all that good stuff. The soldering actually is really good on all of these, which, you know, that's nice to see. The little details like that are always good. I mean, there's not a lot of detail work here, but it's nice that what is here is done pretty well. You know, I really can't complain too much there. This one, we do have plastic lenses, so whatever. No anti-reflective coating to speak of on any of these guys. So, you know, that's not great. You can see it on this one too. There you go. So no anti-reflective coating on the backside. In keeping with vintage, I have to give points for that because these did not have anti-reflective coatings. Wasn't even a thought on the glass lenses back then. Now, whether they have any sort of smudge resistant, oleophobic, I can tell you right now, just by tap and touch, it does not. So there's no hydrophobic, no oleophobic. So these are gonna be a pain and a booger to keep clean, which for sunglasses is not necessarily a great thing. This guy here though, I like it. It's just nice. You get the acetate trimming with the lenses in there seated pretty deeply, so you're gonna not have as high of a chance of scuffing, scratching, and scraping them. You can see here that bevel really covers that lens pretty nicely. And let's stop talking about that one for a second because, you know, it is what it is. It doesn't really fit true to this vintage quite as much, and that's kind of what I want to play with. This surprised me. I really, really like this little thing. So It's not super well made. You know, I don't think it's real leather. It's definitely not a hand stitch, but again, under $200, you don't expect anything crazy. They did kind of keep with the vintage with the logo inserted here. It's impressed, but not really. Yeah, it is what it is. But it's super convenient. It's light, it's thin, it opens and closes. Now there are some higher end cases you can get that are made like this. They're very expensive cases, but they even had a nice little felt insert here to protect the lenses. Now, I don't particularly love the function of this case because you do have to put it in here temples closed. So you're gonna stick it in there like this, the temples go in there, and what happens is that. So you can actually see when I turn it around, that is flexing and bowing the temples. There you go. That's how I feel about it. Anyways, so that's flexing and bowing the temples as we go through our normal day with those sitting inside of it. But the good thing here, it is protective of the lenses. But then that clip comes right back around, closes down, nice and neat. They're not going anywhere. You know, you may screw up your temples, but everything else is gonna be overall in good shape. So your adjustment might be out of whack, but and this kind of gets into the quality and the price point of it again, because you can see just that little bit playing with it here. Now we're exposed all the way around here. So definitely not gonna work to protect you from keys if you're throwing these in a bag with other stuff. But it is still a nice, cool little case. I really like this one with the cable temples because it does a nicer job of keeping those from being jabby and stabby, which nobody likes jabby and stabby temples running around throughout the frame or throughout their bag, right? You get this guy, and you get this guy, and you put them together, and it just slides in there all nice and neat. When this one's closed, it's all nice and tight and snug, and even though I can't even do it, but still kind of the same thing. You got that little bit exposed there at the top, but it's nice, clean, small, compact, keeps them pretty safe. Yeah, made in Italy. Yeah, sure. We'll have a joke about that another time. That's all I'm gonna rant on. 16 minutes of Ray-Bans, that's in 3 years. There you go. You got your 20 minutes of Ray-Bans in 3 years. And I am going to go play with these guys some more because, I'll stick to T. Henry. It's not a fair comparison. It's 3 times more expensive. Yeah, that's how it goes. Let me know your thoughts on these. If you haven't seen the Ray-Ban vintage collection before and you like the vintage style stuff, maybe you don't want somebody's old frames that have been through 50 lives, but hey, this sucker has lived more lives than the others are even capable of. I can tell you that. Heirloom grade built versus throw it away in the parking lot built. Yeah. But again, even though some things are cheaply done, some things are well done. That's what's surprising in some ways. I don't hate them as much as I thought. Next, we'll play with these. We'll play with an AO because, you know, AO and Randolph is a rivalry, but if we're getting into vintage with Ray-Ban, it just makes sense to throw AO under the bus. We'll get some Wayfarers. We'll compare to the Saratoga. We'll keep these guys handy for a little while longer. We'll dig out an AO General and we'll dive into that. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos. I can get my hands on more Ray-Bans and maybe we'll give them away or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But for now, that's all I've got. I'll catch you guys next time.